everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Indicio's CTO, Ken Ebert, and VP of Business Development and Customer Success, Hiroshi Matsui. They are here to discuss the growing decentralized identity market as we draw closer to 2025. Thank you both for taking the time to speak to me today. For those who are unfamiliar, would you give us a brief summary of what we mean when we say the decentralized identity market? What kind of tools and products are we talking about here?
Uh, you're looking at what are verifiable credentials and what are their capabilities. Verifiable credentials can contain any type of data, but typically they're associated with identity or people. And so the data is highly sensitive, PII. And so protecting that data and using it in a way that reduces fraud, increases the user experience, makes it smoother and faster for people to use and reduces the cost of integrations and deployments. So those are the key markers of the decentralized identity market.
All right, sounds good. So, what markers have we seen to say that the market is growing right now?
From what I see, it's the level of inquiries and the number of deployments that are either moving into their proof of concept stage or their actual deployments. And so watching each of those, you see an increase in all three categories.
All right, sounds good. And what are the drivers of this growth? Are people just think they're cool? What is the technology really doing for people out there in the wild?
Yeah, I think increase awareness of security. Uh, there's a data breach, uh, deep fake issue. So, and also people working remotely. So, in order to secure the company data, corporate data, personal data, privacy, from that perspective.
I think some of the recent announcements in travel, the demonstration that recently occurred show with CETA and Indicio showing the use of the digital travel credential, the replacement for a paper passport, a digital version of that, and a IATA One ID for customer preferences, and those being used in conjunction. I think that's a drawer of interest, and people can see the capabilities of how this can improve not only the airlines, airports, and government side of it, but it also makes the experience much better and more pleasant for the travelers. And so, in each of these areas, whenever a new milestone like that is reached, where you see interoperability between DIDCOM and OID for VC in a solution, that also sparks interest where they see the technology is more capable, they see that the user experience is better, and that the outcome for all the participants is improved. Then people say, I want some of that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great thing to touch on next is milestones this year for the technology. You mentioned DIDCOM working with OID for VC. Is there any other milestones or real progress that's been made this year?
So DIDCOM and OID for VC are both protocols, and they can both be used to issue and um, verify credentials. Typically, people select either one or the other, but used in conjunction, they offer a little bit more flexibility, and the different capabilities of each protocol are strengthened. Different credential types are in play as well. So the representation of non-creds, in one case, SD JOTs or selective disclosure JWTs, allows for matching the capabilities to the use case. And sometimes you get one and sometimes the other. And it's nice that the Indicio solution supports both and can use them interoperably. The other advances in the technology, including some updates to the OID for VC protocol, continues to evolve, and they've announced new implementers drafts. And as those occur, we have to keep our technology current with those. And so that's a new step forward in the OID for VC area. Also, Open Badges has updated their protocols and specifications to Open Badges 3.0, and they have some new representations, some new protocols for remote verification and verification without phoning home to the issuer. So those are some important technology achievements in the last year that drive ease of use and better and improved user experience, as well as improving the security and privacy of the participants.
All
That's a
right.
brief summary. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it's fun to see as each of these things becomes available. One more important one that I probably shouldn't overlook is proven for auth. Auth stands for authentication, which is determining who you are, and authorization, what you're allowed to do. And so proven for auth allows for new capabilities of allowing verifiable credentials to be used as a replacement for usernames and passwords. And you don't have to have a five-factor authentication like some systems are using. You have a biometrically secured wallet with a credential in it that contains not only who you are, but can embed additional attributes so that the authentication piece of the technology can look at that and determine based on role or other attributes in the credential what you're allowed to do. So that's a fun and new, exciting thing that makes this universally applicable to anybody who has a system where you have to authenticate and authorize. So proven for auth is another exciting development. There's just so many of them. It's hard to list them all in a short period of time.
Of course, no worries. I think yeah, being able to replace pretty much any password, it sounds like for proven for auth.
Mhm.
I think just about everybody is familiar with passwords, so that's pretty exciting.
Everybody's frustrated with passwords too because to rotate them. And so there's some password selection game that I've seen where it's impossible to get a password that actually meets all the criteria. It has an uppercase, lowercase letter, special character, a number. Can't use the name of the website, can't use your own personal name. By the time you go through all the requirements, it's really quite a dance. And then if you have to rotate passwords, it's even worse. So it makes it so that passwords, which are supposed to secure things, people end up writing them on yellow sticky tabs and putting them on their screen. It totally defeats the purpose of securing a system. And so using a credential where it's quick and easy to use, scan a QR code to share it, makes for a much simpler user experience and a much more secure system as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we just touched on a bunch of really cool features and things it can do, but I'm curious as we move, further into as we finish 2024 and move into 2025, what do you think the big features that will continue to be important for next year or that are looking to come out in next year might be?
I think the features we've just mentioned are super important, and they'll roll from technology to actual deployments in customer scenarios. I think that's going to be the big wave. There'll be some other fun stuff coming on the technology side, but those things that I've already mentioned are likely to impact the market. Hiroshi, what are your thoughts about how those features might be adapted to the market?
I think financial institution use cases, because there are many fraud transactions that we can see, and verified credentials can prevent from happening. But also, deepfake is another issue that I see that it's a global issue. So we can deploy to those two areas. I think we already made a headway in the digital travel credential area. So those two areas, I see big growth.
Yeah, Hiroshi, you mentioned the travel arena. I think in 2025 you're going to start to see some progress on moving from a digital travel credential type 1 to a type 2, and I think that will have some positive impact on the travel market and also expanding the types of travel credentials to include you have the high security or really high level of assurance with a passport, but you have other types of credentials that are interesting and useful in the travel arena, loyalty credential. So if you belong to like an airline's loyalty program, you can use a credential to prove who you are and not let somebody else steal your miles. The So visas, boarding passes, all sorts of credentials can be issued and utilized in a very effective way.
It's funny you mentioned about stealing miles. I had one incident that my mileage was stolen. Eventually, the airline company reimbursed it, but it took like a month or two to get my miles back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they were able to at least fix it for you,
Yeah,
Hiroshi, but I'm sure that cost them a little bit of time and money as well.
right.
So better to avoid it in the first place. I do know you, Hiroshi, work a decent amount with the Japanese market. I'm curious if there's anything that you're hearing from those customers in particular that they're excited to use these credentials for.
Yeah, one of the exciting thing is that I mentioned that we're OID for VC ready, and some Japanese were surprised. So that I think this will open the door more so to the Japanese market. And for the Japanese market, we made headways in academic area, Open Badge 3.0, and we're talking to several potential partners to further uh, deploy our services in the corporate area, financial, supply chain management, and well, sky's the limit. There are probably more use cases.
No, that all sounds pretty interesting and exciting to see happening. Hopefully shortly. I'm curious then, to get there, obviously you mentioned we need some government involvement. What are the next steps to, the next growth phase for this technology or, more adoption in your minds?
I think travel, this is also we need to see government involvement, well, especially in the border crossing. But we g- even without border crossing, I think there's multiple use cases because the number of visitors to Japan has been increasing, and well, now the COVID is over. Well, it's not completely over, but we see inbound travelers increase again in Japan. So some use cases for travelers, public transportation, hotel check-in, that we already made headways. So if we can deploy that to the Japanese travel industry, I think people find it very useful.
I think that a lot of growth can come from the proven auth, where replacing usernames and passwords with something much more secure, a verifiable credential, will impact a lot of different industries. Finance and is one in particular where fraud is such a big concern. But any use case where you want to improve the security and usability of your um, uh, computer-based resources, websites, company databases, whatever, using the verifiable credentials as a model for integration with OIDC or SAML type systems or other systems to integrate a very simple, easy to implement, and easy to use solution for replacing those usernames and passwords would be, I think, another great area for growth in 2025.
Absolutely. I definitely hate having to use multi-factor or just forget my password and having to reset it. So very much looking forward to that getting a bit more mainstream.
And one of my logins, I had to do um, try to log in using my username and password. They would send me an email. I'd pull out the code. I'd take the code and fill it in. It would then send me to an authenticator that used my face twice to log me in, pull up another code there to type in back on the website, and then I'd finally get in. So the whole process was so cumbersome and convoluted that it was shocking to me. The user experience was so poor that it made it almost unusable. But I think that proven auth can make that so much simpler. Use the app, have it scan my face to open the app so that they know I'm using it. Use my phone to scan a QR code to connect and verify my credential, and in I go. So a quick, natural flow of using that will, I think, be an amazing change for people who want to have both a secure and easy to use system.
Absolutely. Well, I do appreciate both of you taking the time to speak with us today. It looks like that is about our time. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about decentralized identity and verifiable credential technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content and demonstrations. If you have any questions or specific topics that you'd like for us to cover, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and we'll be sure to read and address them. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you.